It's never too late. That's my main message. It's never too late. And I love the line, your future is hidden in your daily routine.
Hi everyone, I'm Stella. I'm a health and fitness coach for women, and I am a host of this Inspire show. And I always bring you guests who can inspire you on some way. Today I bring you Allison Davis. Hi, Allison.
Hello, it's so nice to be here. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you to coming. You are an author of a book and a naturopath
Yes.
also. Yeah, tell me about yourself.
Well, yes. I'm married, been married for 30 years, and I've got 5 children. And I still have two of them at home, an 18 and a 15-year-old. And I am a naturopath, traditional naturopath. So I've been studying natural health for 30 years probably, um, helping other people with it for probably 14 or 15 years. And like you said, I'm an author. I just wrote a book that came out in January, so just came out a couple months ago, and kind of focused on all the things that I've been doing all these years. A combination of natural health, longevity, which has always been fascinating to me. How do people get to be 90 or 100 and they're doing great? What was the trick? And so I looked at a lot of studies, and so all that's in the book. And then, what can we do to create our lives? Because there are principles to longevity, lifestyle habits that with all these different studies, they all kind of say the same thing. So, in terms of lifestyle habits, and so, okay, that's great. We have all this information, but we need a plan. So, I'm all about having a plan. Early in my career, before I had kids, I was a TV producer. And so that required like serious planning, right? Organizing and all of that. And then I homeschooled my kids for about 20 years. So same thing. I mean, it just really required, you know, plan.
Yeah.
So I was just like, when I wrote this book, I was just like, okay, it's one thing to give all this information, but how are we going to execute on it? How are we going to like move the needle forward? People have to have a plan. And so that's kind of what the book leads to, is a plan. And there's actually a planner that goes with it. If a person, needs a planner, some people have their own way of doing things like that. But the book leads to what I call the 60-day dare. And because it takes at least 60 days to create a new habit. So that could be a physical habit, like, going for a walk 30 minutes a day. It could be drinking more water. It could be a thought habit. So it's at least 60 days. It could be up to 8 months. And this
Yeah.
is from Dr. Caroline Leaf. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's a neuroscientist. She's probably, I don't know how old she is, maybe in her 70s. I mean, she's published, gosh, I bet at least 20 books. And she's looking in the microscope at the brain cells and seeing the creation and how they change as habits are solidified. So she's the one that has said that, and I really believe her because she's seeing it, physically seeing it, right? So that's why the title of the book is 60 is a good start also. It was because I wrote it when
Ah,
I turned 60. So
yeah, I
it
thought
is
about
a,
you are 60, that's why. Not the
yes,
it's about 60 day.
right.
Yeah.
It's both things. It's both things. So I really
Ah,
say, well, it's about, I'm kind of talking to women in the second half of life. Like, it's not too late. It's just never too late. But these principles apply to anybody. I mean, male, female, whatever.
Mm.
But it is, yeah, it is also the 60 days is a good start. It was just when I turned 60, I kind of freaked out. Kind of was like, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on? I'm 10 years from 70, 20 years from 80. What am I doing with my life? Am I doing what I should be doing? What do I want to do for the next decade?
Mhm.
Like, our purpose is so important. We need a purpose, whatever it is, that energizes us. And so I kind of went on a little odyssey of trying to figure that out for about 7 months. And that was in 2021 and right after I turned 60. And then I finally decided, I think I'm going to write a book. So that was about a 3-year process. And then now here we are.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah, because I always said also that that after 50, because I usually coaching women in menopause
Yes.
and over 40, 50, and I always telling them that you have to re you change your mindset that after 50 it's not the end of your
Right.
life. You
Right.
maybe you will live 30 or 35 years or 25 years, who knows, 25, 35. What do you want to do with these 30,
Yes.
35 years? You're just waiting to be older,
Uh-huh.
weaker, or what?
Right.
You
That's so
you
good. Yeah.
you can have new purpose, you can have new goals, and you can be a beginner in something, and maybe you
Yes.
will achieve your goal. You have time for that.
I mean, they say 60 is actually a really transformational time for women. We've spent the last, let's say, 30 years either raising kids or in a career, some full-on career or both. And,
Yeah.
it's exhausting. I mean, we're giving, 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 whatever those ways are. And we get to this point and it's really rethinking things. I have so many friends around this age that it's that same thing, and it's a lot of I don't know what I want to do. I'm not sure. And I love talking to people and saying, what were your dreams when you were like 17 or maybe
The
20,
same thing, yeah.
yeah. And like, what were they? And, it doesn't mean, oh, you have to go back and do those, but maybe they've shifted, but maybe there's some similarities. And,
Yeah.
so I think, and this is the time because now your kids probably are raised, or like me, they're very independent. There's still a couple here, but they'll be gone soon. Um, and or the career, maybe you're just like, I'm sick of that. I want to do something different. So it's exciting to think about those things because we've also got all this wisdom, right?
Yeah.
After all these years. So I think it's an incredible combination of age, wisdom, and an opportunity, I think in most cases to maybe do something different or similar but different, who knows? In my book, I do have a section where if people, because I think there's so many women that are like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm not sure. But there's like another 60. There's 60 questions that you can each day answer one that kind of can guide you
Mhm.
and lead you down that path of, maybe figuring something out.
So it's like a planner and journal and book, everything together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to have a
Yeah, it's
plan.
interesting. Yes, I also wrote a book,
Oh,
How to Tame the Man Beast, and it's also not just a book.
yeah.
It's a journal also, and every 10 day they have new tasks and new workouts, and they have to answer the things and wrote some things there.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That's
it's like
great. Yes.
wrote something similar, but for women in menopause. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. It's quite a time going through menopause too.
And what is uh, the difference between naturopathic and what you said you are
Traditional
uh,
naturopath.
Traditional, yeah, naturopathic. What is the
Well, I
difference?
mean, the terminology, I don't know how it is where you are in Europe, but in America, it's a little confusing. So we have medical doctors, right? A MD. And then we are just starting, and, really, well, they've been around for a couple decades, but they're getting more recognized now. Doctors that are called integrative medical doctors or functional medical
Functional
doctors. That's
doctors.
that's a new. Those are pretty new terms, and naturopath, but a medical doctor that's a naturopath. But what I did is more of a certification. It did take 3 years, but on and off. It was and it's a traditional naturopath. So it is not medical school, but it is looking at a lot of modalities, muscle testing, you know, herbs and nutritional stuff, and, just all kinds of stuff like that. Um, so the difference over here would be that. But I always tell people, you really need to go to, like, if you're good, you need to get testing done. You need to get your hormones tested. You need to get your blood work done. You need to look at all that. And I would go to a functional medical doctor or an integrative medical doctor or a naturopath to do that. I don't do that, but I send people to do that. And I do that and have done that for a long time because those kind of doctors really understand that root cause mentality,
Mm-hmm.
versus the kind of old school of you don't feel good, here's a pill. It's like that's the last way I think you want to go. You want to try what's natural first. If it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work, look at your other options. But it might work. And I always say, the body is not deficient in anything synthetic. So if we can be putting natural things into it, that's always going to be the best. Sometimes people are in a crisis situation though, and they have to do what they have to do, and that's okay. So, I see people that say are on several medications and, maybe they want to try to get off of something. And it's just like talk to your
Mm-hmm.
doctor, try to start weaning off of whatever you want to wean off of, and do those important, you know, daily lifestyle habits. Like, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What's your stress level? How are you
It's very
sleeping?
important.
All
Yeah.
of those things. So, but so many people are just like working hard and moving fast and, high stress and not paying attention to any of those things. And, eventually,
Mm-hmm.
usually it catches up, that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a few menopausal groups, and I just I'm so sad about women just word that they feel awful, and what pills everyone else suggests to them. Pills, not lifestyle changes or
oh,
anything.
yeah.
They don't want to change their
Yeah.
lifestyle. They want just pills to fix
Yeah.
everything.
I know. That's our modern society, unfortunately. That's give me a
Yeah.
pill and I want convenience, and it just is, it may work for some people. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different constitution. Everybody's different. And for some people, I always think about George Burns. Remember George Burns? I don't know if you remember him. He was an American comedian, and he lived to be, at least I think he lived to be 100 or maybe a little more than 100.
Oh,
And he was smoking and drinking, on his TV thing. Um, so he had a strong constitution. Like he could do some things that his body tolerated. But there's a lot of
mhm.
other people that have what I would call a mild constitution. And, they're much more sensitive to things. And so they just can't do that. But once a person like gets off the pills and just gets that natural lifestyle going, and it takes a little while. I mean, I had to do that when I was 40. So I'm 63. Am I 63? No, I'm 64. I had to think, what year is it? Um, I'm 64. But when I was 43, I had just had my third child, so I had him later than most, 37 to 40 and then 42. So I was 43 and my body just was like crashing. I was getting sick for a good week, like every 6 weeks. I started keeping track of it. And that's when I finally found my naturopath doctor. And we did all these tests, neurohormones, sex hormones, blood work, poop tests to see my gut health. And, I realized I had, and this is after a couple decades of, just not taking care of myself well enough. I had way too much bad bacteria in my gut and not enough good. And that and
Mm-hmm.
my adrenals were just shot, as he said. And that's probably partly having three kids at that time. So, he got me on certain herbs. I don't even remember what they were back then, and had me eating a certain way. And it took a while, but eventually, I mean, I'm going to say it took at least probably a year, of just maybe it was a little less than that on the herbs. Maybe it was 6 months, but just it just takes a while. We've
Yes.
been doing something bad for so long that it's going to take us a little while to regenerate our bodies, but we can. They're made to heal. We just have to get out of the way to do
Yeah,
some.
but we did something wrong maybe years, and we expect to change it for a week. It's
Yes.
it's it's not
Yeah.
happening.
No, it's not
We need
happening.
also a few months for that, or
Right.
maybe a year to
Right.
change
Right.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people if you're going to try, a supplement, you got to give it at least 3 months, if
Mhm.
not a little longer, to just see if you can see some difference going on. But
Yeah,
yeah, in my
I
case, a year.
yeah, I started to use for my hot flashes royal jelly, and it takes about 3 weeks only. And
Hmm.
I started to feel the difference. And
Hmm.
after 2 months, my hot flashes just disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
it's so natural. I always
Yeah.
try to find a natural solution also.
Yes. Yes.
What are the strategies in your book for longevity, or what
Well,
are?
yeah. So I looked at a lot of studies, of course, the blue zones. Have you heard of the blue zones?
Yes, yes.
So just for your audience, if they don't know, it's 5 areas in the world that have large conglomerations of centenarians. So those are 100-year-old people that are,
Hmm.
doing okay. And they're all in Mediterranean regions, that kind of where that is relative to the equator.
Hmm.
So Greece and Italy, and there's Costa Rica, there's Loma Linda, California, and then Okinawa, Japan. And so I looked at that and looked at also some Harvard studies with like 220,000 women that were over the course of a lot of years. And then another book called Radical Remission, which is all about cancer and, longevity in those terms. These were people that had good outcomes with cancer diagnosis that were not supposed to have good outcomes, but did through alternative means. It's a really good book. It's by Dr. Kelly Turner. And so all of those in terms of lifestyle habits, and that's what we're talking about because they all fall into three categories. So my framework is called the self-perpetuating circle of purpose. And three pillars are body work, brain work, and world work. And so I talk about
Body
each
work. That's it. Body
body
work.
work, but physical body, brain work,
Yeah.
which is mental,
Brain work.
emotional, spiritual, and then world work, your outer world, which would be your purpose and your relationships. And
Uh-huh.
so in body work, there's the big five in each category. And so what you do, like I said, this leads to the 60-day dare. That's what the planner is for. So for 60 days, you're going to choose one thing from each of those categories. There's five to choose from, and design your 60 days. Um, to try to create some better habits. And all of these go to longevity. So, number one would be changing your diet somehow to be cleaner. Maybe you're going to add something, maybe you're going to subtract something, maybe you're going to eat differently somehow. You could choose that. You could choose to drink half your body weight in ounces of water. You can move or exercise, I mean, ideally, we're going to do something 45 minutes a day. You could do more if you want, of course, but that would be the goal to get to it. Maybe it's just walking. That's fine. I mean, the more we walk, wow, that really can lead to longevity, just walking. Getting good sleep, that's huge. Number one in keeping our immune system boosted. I like to say 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And then deep breathing. That's a big one. People are like, breathe. I'm like, yeah, breathe, deep breathing. You got to learn how to breathe right. And so that's the body work. And then in the brain work, you're either going to journal or you're going to read or listen to uplifting nonfiction material that's somehow improving you, whether it's personally or in a business aspect, somehow. This next one is clear, which would be either decluttering your house, decluttering your digital life, or detoxing your house and going through those areas like the laundry room, the kitchen, under the sink, the bathroom where we have lots of chemicals. So I'm all about, whatever we put on our skins going into our
Mhm.
bloodstream. So we
Yes.
have to really, and you guys have it better than we do in America. I think we're just beginning to change things, but there are so many chemicals that are allowed in everything from house cleaning products to soap, hand sanitizer, makeup,
Mhm.
skincare, especially for women. We're wearing makeup and we're all the skincare, and just everything that you're doing in your house. I mean, dish soap, laundry soap, all those things. So to switch those things out with plant-based, no chemicals, and those that are out there, I've been using them for many years, products. So that's another area that we can help our health. The next thing would be meditate, or you could pray or do affirmations. And then
Mhm.
the last thing in that category would I call create, which is finding some kind of artistic expression. For me, I love to needlepoint. And so, but somebody else might like to paint, or I have a whole tons of
Mhm.
ideas for that. But doing something creative that's not necessarily, maybe if you're a painter for your job, it's not that because that would
Mhm.
involve sales and marketing. And, I'm talking about just pure de-stressing time where you can just do something fun and creative. And then in the world work section, there is dream, which that if you weren't sure, you're struggling to figure out what am I going to do with my life right now, that'd be a great one to do where you just kind of journal and answer one of those 60 questions every day. Then you can also engage, which means have an intentional conversation or meetup or something where it's important that we put our family and friends first. So in the longevity studies, you know,
Mhm.
prioritizing family and friends is huge. Um, it's real easy to isolate, especially with on everything online, and just it's easy for people to stay home, and the loneliness issue is a big issue, especially as people get older. So to just make that effort, to connect with people. And then also gathering in some sort of spiritual community. That was a big part of the longevity studies also was being part of a spiritual community, whatever that is. And it could be that you're just meeting with somebody one-on-one, but for the purpose of that, or maybe in large groups or small groups, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Volunteering, that is another area that can really lead to a new purpose, and volunteer for something you like, something you really want to do. One of the things I feel like I'm trying to teach people is to say no sometimes. I mean, there's that type of person that just says yes to everything, even though it's really not their thing. What is it that fills your soul to do? And pursue
Mhm.
those things, in that kind of volunteer type area where it could really lead to a new purpose. And then if you do know what your purpose is, then work on that. for, a little bit every
Hmm.
day. So those are kind of all the areas that I like, that the longevity lifestyle habits are part of all those. And so that's
Yeah,
them.
I love that. Yeah, I agree with that, with all of it. Yeah. What could you advise how to start with which one is the most important of these?
Well, I don't, I mean, I think most people tend to want to start with the body work part, the physical, because especially if they don't feel good, if things are not working well, so I definitely think that's kind of where you want to start, and just really assess. And in the book, I have you do an assessment, and you're kind of just giving about 15 areas of your life a 1 to 10 rating, and so I think people can do that. And it's everything from the physical stuff to the mental stuff to the world stuff, and just assess how is your life in that area. And so then based on what they rate the lowest, those are the areas that they can start on that 60-day dare. And I mean, people can do that 60-day dare on their own, but I definitely recommend doing it with some friends. I'm developing a program that people can do it with me online. It's not ready yet, but it will be in, I don't know, a month or so. But
Mhm.
I do think you need accountability. I know for me, it's hard to do those things alone. I mean, sometimes I do, but having the consistency is the key.
Mhm.
That's why we're trying to do 60 days. So 60 is a good start. Well, so do something for 60 days, but that's just the beginning, right? You got to keep doing it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
hopefully we do that multiple times a year to develop those
Yeah.
good habits.
Yes, I also speaking many times about habits because I also so I heard before that 3 weeks, but I don't believe in that. 3 weeks
Mm-mm.
is not enough for anything.
No, but
And
they do say that, but it's not enough.
no, it's not enough. I always say at least 60 days,
Yeah.
90 days. It's depend
Hmm.
on the person also,
Yeah, and the
how they
habit.
are
Hmm.
committed. Yeah, yeah. And how they have, how many bad habits they have and how many habits they have to change.
Definitely.
Um, I see in my coaching how they, some of them are faster, some of they not. But I always tell that the new habit, you implemented a new habit when your mind, if you forget it, your mind will uh, tell you, you didn't do this today.
Right, right, right.
That,
That's why
that's
we
a
need
new
a
habit.
planner so we check it off. But
Yeah, in the beginning.
one of my favorite lines is environment triggers behavior. And so I think a big help in creating the new habits that we want to create is setting up our environments. And that was the whole thing with the blue zones. Those people's environments were just set up. I mean, they didn't live lives of modernity that we do. They were set up. They had to walk, distance to go. They were herding sheep. I mean, they were doing different things in the different locations. So it wasn't all the same, but their environments were triggering their behavior. So, like
Mhm.
put all the fruits and vegetables in clear glass bowls at eye level in your refrigerator. Or I always say, put your tennis shoes out so you see them when you wake up in the morning and they're not hidden in the closet and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I got to put my tennis shoes on, and
Yeah.
and like have the water, cups filled and ready to go each day. So just whatever you can do to set up your environment to, like, I have my supplements in little baggies in a bowl right when I walk in my office, and so I see them right there right when I walk in. I grab them,
Mhm.
so it's seeing those things to get us to do the things.
Yeah, and you can stick one habit you have with another new one,
Yes,
and
yes, yes,
and you won't forget.
they call that habit stacking. So
Yeah.
maybe when you're brushing your teeth, you connect something to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually said when you go to the bathroom, every time you do 10 squats.
I like it. I like it. That's very good.
Would you do in a day?
Yeah.
Maybe 50, 60, 70?
Right, right, right. I'm gonna do that.
I just
I like
doing
that.
now. I'm just doing now squat challenge, and we
Oh,
are doing minimum 40, and
a
some of the
day.
girls are doing 100,
Oh,
120 in a day
I love
because
it.
they
They go to
started
the
with
bathroom a
that.
lot. They're drinking all their
Yeah.
water. That's good motivation to drink a lot of water too.
If you could go back in time and you could change something, uh, would you change anything?
Um, I mean, in general, I really believe that wherever I was doing the best I could at the time. So I don't really regret. I mean, one thing I would say to younger people is develop your muscles. That especially right now, one of the most important things for us at this age, but at any age, is to have strong muscles and to do strength
Hmm.
training and lift and do those squats and, lift some weights, along with walking. But boy, if I was to choose one, I think it'd be strength training.
Hmm.
Because my mother, she died in 2018, but the last few years, she was in a wheelchair because her muscles just deteriorated. She
Hmm.
couldn't walk anymore. And she didn't really work out. I mean, she was always thin and fit and looked good, but she wasn't working out or anything. And so
Hmm.
she was not strengthening her muscles. And so I'm super aware of that. And of course, and everybody talks about it too, like doctors and, health
Yes,
professionals.
yes.
So I think because I didn't really pay attention as much as I should have to exercise until I was 55. And when I was 55, I was just I think I kind of freaked out at that age too, as in addition to 60. But I was like, oh my gosh, is it too late, to like get strong and fit? And I read a good book and it was like, no, it's not too
No, it's
late.
not
So
late.
so
Yeah.
right. So I started working out and and I had to go extreme in my mind. I had to say to myself, okay, um, my life is going to revolve around these workouts. Nothing is going to take me away from them because there was always an excuse, oh, something came up, I have to go do such and such, and I just was like, nope, no husband and no kids, and they need this, they need that, and the answer is going to be no when my workout is planned.
Exactly.
And I had an appointment. I was going to a Pilates class or a weightlifting
Hmm.
class. And so I was like, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to be here. So, I just had to take
Yeah.
it to the extreme in my mind. And I did. And then I only was working out like twice a week. I thought that was all I could commit to back then. And then I added a third day and then a fourth and then a fifth. And, little by little, it got better. But yeah, I was just not doing much for that prior to that. I wish I'd
Hmm.
done more. So for younger women, I'd say get in there and do it now, whatever age you are.
Yeah. Yes, I also started in my when I was 47, 48, but I wasn't serious in the beginning. When I
Yeah.
was 50, then I started really, and uh, I started with the gym, but I didn't like it so much, and then came COVID, and we couldn't go to the gym. So
Mm,
I designed my home workouts, and they
okay.
are only 17 minutes,
Oh, I love
and
it.
it's effective, and I work with that in my program.
Mm-hmm.
So I combine everything like strength training, uh, body weight training, Pilates, yoga, balance
Mm-hmm.
training,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
animal moves, and
Yeah.
everything a little. And I doing work exercises which moves many muscles always, not just
Mm-hmm.
one,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm. Yes,
70 minutes are,
I did see that on
and
your
who,
YouTube,
who
I
says,
think.
don't have 70 minutes for every
Right.
day for
Absolutely.
hours?
You're right. If you don't have 17 minutes, then it's not a
Yeah.
priority. That's
Yeah.
great.
So, what is your last message to my listener?
It's never too late. That's my main message. It's never too late. And I love the line, your future is hidden in your daily routine. So what do you want your future to be? When I have always thought about that, I've always thought, well, I want to be fit and I want to feel good. What do you want your future to be? So now start to create your daily routine to get to that.
Yes. Yes, amazing. Thank you. What is your book title again?
It's
Just
called, yeah, it's called 60 is a Good Start. It's on
and it,
Amazon, all the
yeah.
places.
Okay, I will put the link.
Okay.
And do you
Mhm.
have a website?
Yes, my website is my name, AllisonMcCuneDavis.com. And there, if you go to the 60-day dare page, you can sign up to get notified for when we put that program together. You'll just get an email that lets you know about it. But yeah, that's my website. And I'm on Instagram too. Same
Okay.
name.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.